And now we have the second place winner of the November patron pick, where its victory was stolen by an NFE Pokemon. So next up, we have Hypno. Fans of the original Indigo League anime will recall the episode with it and its pre-evolution Drowsy, mostly due to the lurching and lurking menace of these two Pokemon, but also because it was where Team Rocket absolutely shattered the fourth wall by asserting their first failed scheme was by virtue of needing to fill a half hour. The Indigo League writers were really something, huh? Also, some of you may remember the amazing Pokemon Stadium minigames, and one of them has a Drowsy pendulum timing that's pretty fun if I do say so myself. Today we'll examine how Hypno's hypnosis, its pendulum, and proboscis affected the competitive scene. And so, we ask, how good was Hypno actually? And in this video we'll be going over these competitive formats. Hypno had a small but legitimate decent niche in RBYOU. Not only did it possess the coveted psychic typing, but it also had quite a special stat, the only psychic with a higher special being Alakazam. In addition, it had access to hypnosis, and sleep was incredibly powerful in the first generation. Lasting up to 6 turns, it was very possibly a KO on whatever it hit. Hypno also had higher speed than the most popular sleeper, Exeggutor, allowing it to get the first sleep on the opponent, which was a potentially huge advantage. This made Hypno quite a good lead. It could sleep Alakazam, Starmie, and Exeggutor leads reliably, and could then force them out with psychic special drops, allowing it to land a Thunder Wave on the switch-in. Dual status spread was a solid start to any game. Hypno's vulnerability to Jinx leads and lack of mid-game utility meant it wasn't the most consistent, splashable Pokemon, but it certainly had a genuinely solid little role in the OU metagame, with some tournament success to its name. Now in UU, Hypno was absolutely amazing. It was the clear second best Pokemon in the tier, only behind the even more amazing Tentacruel. Matter of fact, much of what made Hypno as excellent as it was that it was one of the best Tentacruel checks. That certainly wasn't the only reason it was so good though. The metagame was short on psychics and was thus short on psychic resists. The only other psychic was Kadabra. This meant Hypno had both immensely important offensive and defensive utility, both in dishing the psychics out and absorbing them. It was even more of a threat because of how reliable it was at putting an opponent to sleep before it began barraging the opponent with a combination of Psychic and Thunder Wave, with the latter severely crippling Kadabra, making Hypno and his teammates even more difficult to deal with. Now, Hypno wasn't invincible. Its lower defense stat held it back against common physical attackers like Dugtrio and Kangaskhan. However, one wasn't going to take Hypno down without suffering some serious pain in return. It was incredibly common because it didn't matter how much you knew it was coming. It was going to mess you up anyway, and that's what made it so good. Finally, Hypno had a small niche even in Ubers. It wasn't top tier, but its high special psychic resist and access to dual status allowed it to check or at least slow down the mighty Mewtwo. It wasn't great against much else, but when you can stand up to the scariest Pokemon of all time, you'll find a role, however small. Like other psychics, Hypno was held back by the second generation's attempt to nerf them in the form of dark types, steel types, the splitting of the special stat, which resulted in an unimpressive base special attack of 73, and the move psychic special defense drop rate falling to a paltry 10%. Sleep was also no longer as potent with rest and sleep talk everywhere. Thus, Hypno no longer had any sort of niche in OU. However, in UU, it was absolutely excellent, and once again ranked among the best Pokemon in the tier. It used rest and sleep talk itself to fortify its defensive capabilities. It was tough to break and spread damage with Psychic and Seismic Toss, or could be an effective user of Thunder Wave. Whichever move it chose, Hypno was nearly impossible to switch into without a Pokemon that was also a rest talk user. Forcing that Pokemon to rest could be capitalized on by Hypno's teammates, which made it an excellent game-to-game support Pokemon. In addition to its reliably important support capabilities, Hypno's ability to check the metagame's best Pokemon was once again a large part of what made it so effective. This time, the Pokemon in question was Tier Queen Nidoqueen. Its lack of a Thunderbolt weakness also made it a terrific check to the dangerous Electabuzz, Mr. Mime, and Gyarados, which was a major advantage over its biggest competitors, the Slow Twins. Overall, Hypno was a crucial, top-tier pillar of UU for the second time in as many generations. The third generation blessed Hypno with an absolutely incredible move, Wish. This allowed it to heal not only itself, but its teammates too. This combined with Hypno's excellent defensive prowess made it an amazing UU Pokemon once again. In addition to checking dangerous threats like Tentacruel, Hitmonlee, Walrein, and Manectric, Hypno's new ability, Insomnia, also allowed it to completely blank sleep moves from Pokemon like Vileplume. It was difficult to prey on its low defense with a Choice Bander, as Hypno could simply scout the move with Protect, and without a boost from a choice band, Hypno wasn't going down or coming anywhere near it, even shrugging off hits as powerful as Nidoking's Mega Horn thanks to its heavy investment in its defense stat. Special hits bounced off of it even without investment. Protect was also excellent for squeezing every little bit of recovery out of leftovers. As always, Thunderwave was excellent support for Hypno's offensively minded teammates and meant that most of the few Pokemon able to actually hurt Hypno, such as Scyther, Pinsir, and non-rest Kangaskhan, wouldn't be able to switch in safely. This meant taking offensive momentum back against Hypno was very difficult, and the defensively minded switch-ins Hypno forced could be taken advantage of by its own teammates. It didn't necessarily need Thunderwave either. It could ruin opposing bulky Pokemon like Cradily with Toxic, which similarly ruined the aforementioned offensive threats. Finally, Hypno didn't even need to run status. It could either support its team with Reflect, make it easier to sponge the many Choice Bandit and Swords Dance hits flying around and allowing for easier setup opportunities for its teammates, or it could go on the offensive itself, threatening a sweep with another gift from the 3rd generation, Calm Mind, allowing it to blow through Pokemon that would otherwise sit on it, such as Blastoise and Misdreavus. Hypno was so good and so easily slapped on a team that it significantly shaped the landscape of the metagame around it, strongly affecting the viability of many Pokemon. For example, Grumpig was decent, but was used a lot less than it otherwise would be, since it competed so strongly with Hypno. Here's another notable example. Vileplume used Sleep Powder a lot less than it would if Hypno wasn't around. Sleep was quite strong, but the presence of Hypno made Vileplume essentially play with 3 moves in many games, so most players didn't even bother. Hypno's only real downside was that it was quite vulnerable to opposing Toxics, but it was so easily and commonly paired with a cleric like Heal Bell Altaria or Aromatherapy Vileplume that it was nearly a non-issue. Overall, Hypno was once again an absolutely amazing Pokemon in UU for its unmatched support capabilities that fit on nearly every team, and thus was ranked among the best in the tier. Many players considered it as highly as number 2, only behind tier queen Kangaskhan. Power Creep hit Hypno hard. Life Orb, Choice Specs, U-Turn, Physical Pursuit, these were all major hindrances for a defensive Psychic type. Plus, there was stiff Psychic competition in the form of metagame staples Uxie and Mesprit. As a result, Hypno was a rare sight in UU. It did have the small niche of being able to baton pass Calm Minds or Nasty Plots, but this wasn't a reliable strategy and was relegated to gimmick territory. This lack of UU usage led Hypno to drop to NU, and at first it was absolutely amazing, solidifying itself as one of the very best Pokemon in the metagame. Its reliance on a 2-move recovery and lack of fire resistance meant it often competed with Slowking, but that didn't stop Hypno from defining and shaping much of the metagame, with its combination of amazing defensive utility and Wish. Even without its fire resistance, it was one of the few Pokemon capable of standing up to the tier king Life Orb Charizard, if at high health. Furthermore, its Wish support could make up for its teammate Regirock's lack of recovery, which was invaluable considering how important Regirock was for staving off threats like Tauros. Hypno also completely walled the dangerous Medicham, who couldn't pack super effective coverage for it like it could with Thunder Punch or Slowking. Hypno's main flaw was its vulnerability to Skunktank's Pursuit. However, as long as the Hypno user wasn't put in too reactive a position, they could take advantage of the Skuntank switch, which was near obligatory given that Skuntank existed to remove Hypno, and could double switch to a threat of their own, such as Magmortar, grabbing a free turn against Skuntank and punishing the Skunk's user's team by dishing out huge damage. Overall, the metagame evolved, and as other Pokemon were explored, Hypno became less of a near automatic inclusion on teams. It wasn't just competing Slowking anymore, although Slowking's greater offensive presence stemming from its 1-move recovery, significantly higher special attack, and wider move pool did mean it got the nod over Hypno more and more often. Licky Licky became popular as a Wish passing special wall, not weak to Pursuit. Gardevoir was a wishing Psychic type that could also use Will-O-Wisp to ruin Skuntank, and Cradily was a special wall with instant recovery that wasn't weak to Pursuit and could even set up Stealth Rock. However, none of these Pokemon countered Medicham while still countering Charizard the way Hypno did, and Wish support was always valuable to reinforce Pokemon like Sandslash that lacked recovery. Insomnia blocking Vileplume's Sleep Powder and Jinx's Lovely Kiss was thoroughly excellent as well, and spreading Paralysis was always useful. Though it was no longer the top 3 or 5 Pokemon it once was, Hypno remained a high-level Pokemon with a unique place in DPP NU, and the metagame was in large part shaped by how Hypno influenced it. Unfortunately, Generation 5 was where it began to go downhill for Hypno. It was difficult for it to keep up with the significantly more spikes-heavy nature of the Gen 5 NU metagame. It had a tougher time being able to check various Pokemon, and even when it did manage to check them, it would be forced to waste 2 turns on Wish and Protect, giving completely free entry to monsters like Golurk. Not only did it give them entry, but it would give them a turn to set up as well, and if it didn't, it either risked death or switched out without receiving its wish, meaning it really wouldn't be able to check anything anymore. It was totally outdone by Alomomola, one of the tier's best Pokemon. There really was no reason to use Hypno. It was just completely useless defensively, and when you consider that defense was the only thing it could do, well, as competitive expert Liz Lemon would say, that's a deal breaker, ladies. Hypno's uselessness led it to see just about no usage, and it became untiered as a result. The 6th generation's knockoff buff was absolutely horrible for Hypno. It wasn't bad enough that it was another common, powerful, super effective hit Hypno would have to contend with. It just had to remove the leftovers Hypno relied on so heavily as well. It dropped to the new lowest tier PU, and it couldn't keep up even down there. Once again, it was outclassed by a Regenerator Wish Pokemon. This time, it was Audino. Regenerator meant that Audino losing its leftovers was far from a death sentence, just a minor inconvenience. Regenerator let Audino continue walling and Wish passing without needing to manually heal itself over 2 turns, as opposed to Hypno. Plus, not only was Audino not weak to knockoff, it could use it itself, making it significantly more effective at crippling opposing teams, and with Heal Bell, it could support its team even further. There really was no reason to use Hypno if your goal was to win, and as a result, most players didn't. It dropped to untiered for the 2nd time. Hypno had the exact same problem in Gen 7 PU as in Gen 6 PU. There was absolutely no point in using it when Audino existed, at least in a defensive capacity. Some players tried to use Z moves to make Hypno work as an offensive threat, as with Z Hypnosis it could put an opponent to sleep and gain a +1 speed boost in the same turn, which would then let it safely set up Belly Drum, leaving it poised to sweep. At least that's how it was supposed to work in theory. In practice, it would never actually sweep, as it would either get outsped by nearly every choice Scarfer, or fail to break through common defensive Pokemon like Spiritomb, Sableye, and Musharna. That is, assuming it even hit Hypnosis in the first place. If it didn't, which was often, Hypno would do nothing at all. It was given an honest try, but there really was no place for Hypno in the lowest tier once again, and it chalked up its 3rd untiered placement as a result. And that's it. So how good was Hypno actually? Well, it's seen some serious up and downs. In the first 3 generation, it was one of the most defining UU Pokemon. In Gen 4, it dropped to NU, but it was still a defining Pokemon there. However, afterwards, power creep really caught up with it, and the unfortunately started raining down. Not just in terms of offensive power, although Gen 6's knockoff buff certainly didn't help, but also in the form of bulky Wish users that have Regenerator as well, making it nearly impossible for Hypno to keep up and accomplish anything of note. It's gone from 3 consecutive definitive UU placements to 3 consecutive untiered placements. Hopefully, if and when Hypno returns to Gen 8, it will come bearing some significant buffs that will allow it to establish a legitimate niche in at least PU. As several other Pokemon have shown, it doesn't take much, so all it takes is a little generosity from Game Freak for Hypno to recapture its lower tier prowess. Thanks for watching, everyone, and as always, if you liked the video and you want to see more, be sure to subscribe to False Swipe Gaming for more weekly Pokemon content. And in the comments, I want to know, what do you think about competitive Hypno? How would you make it better to maybe take it out of untiered? Also, thank you so much to our patrons for continued support of our videos, and thank you to everyone else watching as well. And follow my crew on these social media platforms. And that's all I got. See you next time, everyone.